Hello everyone, let's check out last year's anime The Last Summoner. Episode 1 begins with an acquaintance with the main character Aja. He just lies next to a tree and listens to music with headphones. And on the way home, he tells his daily routine in which nothing in his life changes. Woke up, ate, went to school, and so every day the kid has no goals and desires. The only thing he can do is cook and cook so delicious that a local goddess named Dora responds to the smell of his ramen. She appears in front of the main character in all its glory and then turns into a baby and sharpens all the cooked food. The guy is shocked by this turn, so he grabs the girl by the head and throws her out into the street, but she returns to the apartment and continues to play. It seems to Jay that this is all a dream or he simply goes crazy. Dora explains that she is a spirit and right now she needs energy and you can get it with food. The most important question is how to get rid of her, because she just fell on the guy's head and does not let him live in peace. And without receiving an answer, the main character goes to lessons and tries to get rid of the girl again along the way. In algebra, the spirit offers the young man to sign a contract, but he again refuses, forcing the teacher to raise his voice. By the way, no one except the summoner himself can see Dora, which means she can do anything, for example, make faces. AJ gets bored with all this crap and he quietly leaves school, and on the way home he meets a girl who wants to share a love note with him. But since the guy is hindered by the spirit, he loses his temper and starts screaming, thereby scaring off the schoolgirl. In the evening, the main character floods the girl with food. Supposedly it will help bring her back, but she explains that if the summoner refuses to sign the contract, then she will wander around the world for several hundred years until they disappear, and in order to end her life on a good note, Dara decides to show AJ what their world really looks like. The so-called summoners have been wandering around for a long time, who are able to get the power of the summoned spirit and become, for example, skillful, music, or guys like it, or become super strong and able to tear down a huge tree with one movement of the hand. As a result, a mental walk forces the hero to change his mind and sign a contract. But after that, the couple flies around the city with the help of the newly received power. After a few minutes of the flight, Dora realizes that she has lost all her strength since she has not eaten anything for a long time, which leads to a firm landing and minor injuries. The guy is interested in the girl's past, but she only panics from her life and just falls asleep. And at the end of the series, we are shown another summoner who, for some reason, is watching our couple. The next day, the guys go to the basketball court and the girl decides to drink a cocktail in her underwear. The guy is still 16 years old and he is ashamed to stick to an almost naked adult goddess, so he puts on headphones and listens to music. This allows another spirit in the form of a plant to capture Dora and head towards the park. The main character immediately goes after them, and after a while gets lost because his running speed is not enough yet. And after a couple of minutes, he meets the brother of the girl who wanted to confess her love to Ajay, but he refused her and for the interfering goddess. The same thing happens. This time because his concern is Dora and not some kind of karate, regardless to which the hero moves forward and meets the bespectacled man, who declares that he knows everything about the guy and wants to help him. AJ refuses to take the guy seriously, so he jumps over him and goes on. Oh yes, the further the spirit is from its owner, the weaker it becomes, which means that the telepathic connection with which the guys communicate is getting worse and worse. The girl cannot explain exactly where she is. However, the main character manages to hear the sounds of a concert of one group he hates and he immediately understands where he needs to go. But it is difficult to find the right one among the crowd. The goal is all the more everyone around has dressed up in something, which means it's time to take the girl for a little and say that if the plant eats her, then the main character will get rid of the hated madam. This angers Dora and she starts beating the monster from the inside, thereby giving away her location. Our hero approaches him and returns strength to the spirit. But after that, the couple discovers the summoner. It turns out to be a black-haired schoolgirl with a black rose symbol. And this is just the same coat of arms of one powerful family in the country. She even owns the main character's school. After a couple of minutes, we are transferred to the director's office, who explains to his assistant summoner that she should not hold back because it is important to check the full potential of Dora's forces and from Ajay. So it's time to arrange a skirmish in the forest. The fight turns out to be not too impressive. The main character at first just dodges Hannah's attacks while the spirit is searching for its knives. But the newly summoned living tree attacks the girl from behind and the kid has to cover her with his body. But according to the law of almost any anime, AJ manages to survive and his assistant finds it in time knives with which they manage to get out. strike back, and then cut into several parts of their enemy in the form of a living tree. It turns out that it was only a small part of the enemy's strength. They just held back. But why did the hero turn to Hannah with this question? And they went to discuss business over dinner in their world. There have been summoners for a long time. Among them, there are both good and evil dudes, and here, the brunette belongs to the first. She was given the task to check exactly how a couple of the main characters will behave. The result is that Dora and AJ have been tested, which means there will be no questions for them temporarily, but they will still have to choose keepers or destroyers. The next day, a whole bunch of animals breaks into the school and they are all controlled by another summoner. She appears before us in the form of a cat girl. Hannah takes the fight with her, and at first everything goes quite simply. We are shown the abilities of the enemy eagle, the speed of a cheetah, the strength of a bear, and so on. But then when the battle turns to a new level and each side releases its forces, the guys are completely exhausted and almost kill each other. If a couple of heroes hadn't arrived in time, AJ explains that the cat is the summoner. She has signed a contract with the spirit and can control it. Hannah leaves the battlefield, and an updated group of heroes in the person of the main character Dora and Meow go home. There, the latter explains that she decided to make a stir in the city to attract the attention of the summoners and find her brother. But the attempt was unsuccessful in the morning. A crowd of spirits falls into the guy and invites him to visit the mansion of the Black Rose. By the way, they are now the head of the keepers, that is, good summoners. The head of the group has the ability of different spirits and use different elements, which makes him one of the strongest people on the planet, by the way. In the house, they show us a statue of the first leader of the Guardians. It very much reminds the guy of his mother who abandoned him in early childhood. On the top floor, the guests are met by Harlan, the same leader. He immediately begins to explain the whole situation, tells about the good and evil, and even drives up to Dora, but the destroyers interfere in their conversation. One of them engages in battle with an old man, and here we are shown the full power of the head of the organization. He easily changes the verses and easily deals with his enemy. The rest of the guys are also attacked. They fail to contain the enemies and everyone gets seriously injured, and Hannah is temporarily killed, after which Harlan uses the abilities of the Spirit of Healing and restores the severed neck of his granddaughter. The destroyers use this and defeat the old man, but then he tries to fight back with the last of his strength, but the Dark Reaper takes his soul. By the way, here we learn about the brother of the summoner's cat. He is in the enemy team and has long been a known criminal who is being hunted. The result of the battle is obvious. The keepers lost, but the destroyers left the guys alive to meet them in the future because their goal was not Harlan, but something else. Already at home the next day, the main characters discuss a plan of action. AJ finds on the internet a block of some girl telling about the summoners today. She holds a meeting of fans to which our team will also go. In the next scene, she presents a girl in a maid costume to us. She moves to the meeting place and does whatever her heart desires with any technique. In short, she's a hacker. AJ, under the guise of a fan, buys all the books, but the blonde's name immediately understands who is hiding under the mask. She explains what she does in life and what she is a pro at, but 4 robot destroyers interfere in their conversation. They get rid of the first one with the help of technology, but the rest destroy the bridge and the walls have to show their spirit capable of turning any technique into a transformer. This helps stop the attackers and go to the Black Rose mansion to restore the chronology of events. Oh, by the way, Stan is the same bespectacled kid from the second series, and he spends most of his time as a woman. After a few minutes of investigation, we are made to understand that the target of the enemies was not the head of the organization at all, but hundreds of spirits imprisoned in all. Special cells. They were stored in the basement of the building and were needed to prevent war by finding a piece of armor of one from the destroyers. The hacker manages to recognize the location of the target. He lives alone in the middle of a stone forest and takes care of flowers in his spare time. At first, the man seems too calm and has nothing to do with Harlan's murder. But then something strange happens. Lightning strikes from the sky and turns the man into a monster. He immediately attacks the heroes, and no one can resist him for half of the series. So Thora decides to accumulate a huge force to transfer it to AJ. It turns out that our goddess is able to create any weapon, even Thor's hammer. These guns can destroy the destroyer's armor and temporarily stop it. He says that he is not a summoner, but only a receptacle for parasites most of the time. The man restrains them, and in times of panic attacks or by order of the leadership can reincarnate, and after death, The parasite goes free and acquires its true form. This time Dora's weapon cannot harm the monster. In just a couple of strokes, the main one loses consciousness and ends up dying, but a short clarification in the goddess's memory returns some of her strength. She takes the form of a crossed demon with an angel, releases a flurry of swords, and uses the ability of heaven's justice to completely destroy the monster. By the way, our goddess does not remember anything of the past, and no one understands why memories are chained in stone inside her heart. And all the summoners became more active on March 17, the day when Dora appeared in front of the hero. So she has some weight in this world. It's not for nothing that Harlan and the Destroyers were interested in her. On the way home, the guy's car is attacked by enemies and everyone is killed, including the main character. But immediately after that, we are transferred to another world and introduced to the father from a jail. He offers the guy to go back 3 minutes ago and prevent the death of his friends. And in the end, he says that he will wait for him in the crucible of the devil. Well, as a result, they all survive and fly to the right place. But without Hannah, because she herself went to the crucible. It is important to understand that all this place is hidden from people have their own rules. No matter who you are, a guardian or a destroyer, you can't kill anyone because after that, according to the laws of the crucible, everyone will hunt the culprits, the summoners of Earth, or even the strongest. So the enmity between the main characters and the killers of Harlan will have to be postponed. Well, there are only 2 episodes of the main characters taking part in the tournament, and they all go to the finish line. The disclosure of the plot here is no stupid running errands and performing various meaningless tasks like getting out of the hotel alive to run a marathon to cook and sing a song, I wonder. Not very. To be honest, I didn't like that the screenwriters decided to slow down the plot in the last series and give a few stupid hints about the continuation. One of them is the purpose of the tournament to collect spiritual energy that is needed for the revival of the Creator. We were no longer shown Hannah, Androzasia's father, and the Destroyers began to behave like idiots, especially since they did not explain why souls were needed because of the Black Rose Mansion. The series is certainly worth the time spent, but only somewhere up to 10 episodes. I recommend watching if you want to brighten up the evening with simple jokes, but if you are a fan of the plot, then it's better to wait for the second season because the crop ending will only spoil the impression. All bye.